Now, from your teenage years, it could take a much shorter period of time to become financially independent, depending on what ideas and opportunities you take advantage of. Mrs. Fields developed a new chocolate chip cookie and became a millionaire before she was 30. Mrs. Fields chocolate chip cookies. What an example of capital in the hands of the people, not in the hands of the state. A 10-year-old takes $1, searches around the community and finds a broken, abandoned wagon, pays $1 for it, brings it home, cleans it up, sands off the rust, paints it till it's shiny and new, straightens out the wheel, and sells the like-new wagon for $11. You ask, does a 10-year-old deserve $10 profit? And the answer is, of course. Society now has a mended wagon. And that's what it's all about. Find something and leave it better than you found it. Create a value. Build an equity. It's how we build this most dynamic society called America. And everyone can contribute. Everyone can bring some value to the marketplace. We can all be students of capital, profit, equity, and value. We can all engage in enterprise. We can all participate in the disciplines that bring wealth of lifestyle and treasure. All of us and our children can build the most powerful and attractive society ever. We have the knowledge, the tools, the schools, the market, the resources. All we need is the will. Let each of us begin. Its riches are for the having. All of these principles in action furnish, to the best of my knowledge, the best soil from which to have a high chance for fortune and lifestyle at a very early age. It is so simple, but it is so powerful. Just try it. Just try it. You can always go back to the old way. But if you just try it, I predict you will be so excited about your new commitment and discipline for wealth that you will never turn back. What we're seeing here is that wealth is a matter of allocation, not opportunity, especially in this country. There are subtleties on both sides of any issue of health and sickness, the issues of success and failure. It is the subtleties that determine the direction and the destination. The major reason it is so subtle is because what you do in a single day or a single week or month doesn't seem to matter that much. But remember, as we said earlier, everything matters. Everything weighs something. Sophisticated people never say, it doesn't matter. If you spend or invest $5 today, it doesn't seem to matter much either way. You seem to be no richer or poorer at the end of the day. But it does make all the difference in the world as you save $5 every day, and the days accumulate into weeks and into months and into years. You see, it's the accumulated total of the allocation of each day that makes all the difference in the world, whether you become rich or poor, healthy or ill, successful or mediocre. Now back to Johnny. He is going to ask about his investment account, where he's putting 10 cents out of every dollar. What kind of interest do they pay kids? So you give him the blockbuster, same as adults. That will be almost unbelievable. At last he can be treated like an adult, getting that adult interest when you're only a kid. And one added note, just by working this part of the financial independence plan alone, by putting aside less than $200 a month, will make you a millionaire in 30 years. Remember, it's called the subtlety of wealth or poverty. What you do in one day doesn't seem to matter. But as all sophisticated kids and adults know, it is the accumulated days of proper allocation of your money that makes you wealthy. It is using the ideas we're discussing, coupled with the passing of a little time, that creates fortunes. Now, the passing of time is automatic, but using the ideas is a matter of your own discipline. Whether you want to or not, or whether you care or not, bottom line, it's all up to you. Let me give you the definition of rich and poor. It is brief, but I'm sure you will get the message. Here it is. Poor people spend their money and save what's left. And you guessed it already. Rich people save their money and spend what's left. Remember, it's the same money, just a different philosophy. If 20 years ago, two people each earned $1,000 a month, and they each had an average increase in income over the last 20 years, one had the philosophy, spend your money, save what's left, and the other had the philosophy, save your money and spend what's left, today, 20 years later, we call one poor and the other rich. The difference was in philosophy. But I can't stress too much the subtlety of it all. At the end of a day or a week or a month, it doesn't seem to matter. A rich plan or a poor plan to an unsophisticated person. But to make wise decisions, we must all weigh a larger measure of the result. We don't just weigh a week. We weigh 5 years of weeks, 10 years of weeks, and let the weight of that measure determine the change in our weekly activity and commitment. Wise decisions for wealth and lifestyle come from the wise measure of results. Hey, here is a great philosophy to learn and to teach, especially to your kids. They will love it. It is called the ant philosophy. You know, little ants. There's a Bible phrase that says, everyone, especially lazy people, should study ants. Ants are unique. Consider this. First, an ant will never quit. If he is headed somewhere, and you put your hand in his way, he will try to climb over, climb under, climb around. He keeps trying. If you let him go on his way, away he goes. And if you put something in his way again, he will try again to go over, under, around. And guess how long an ant will try? Answer, until he dies. So, an ant will never quit. What a philosophy. Next part of the ant philosophy. Guess what an ant has in the back of his mind all summer? Answer, winter. Ants prepare for winter all summer. How very bright. Now, some adults aren't that smart. They think summer all summer. That philosophy we call fatal. Now, here's another piece of ant philosophy. Question: how much will an ant gather in the summer to prepare for the winter? Answer: all he possibly can. That's it. The secret to the higher life, doing all you possibly can. That is the great life quest, seeing what all you can become. A man says to me, Mr. Rohn, I'm making about $50,000 a year. Isn't that enough? I'm taking care of my family, and we are comfortable. Isn't $50,000 enough? And my answer is, yes, it is enough, if it's the best you can do in the time allotted to labor and enterprise. However, if you are capable of making $500,000 a year and you only make $50,000, we call you loser. Remember, it's not the amount that counts. It's the extent of your reach that counts. If your best is $10,000 a year, that's enough. If your best is $1 million a year, that's enough. It's not the amount. It's your best we count. How tall will a tree grow? Answer: as tall as it can. Did you ever hear of a tree growing half as high as it could? No. Only humans with the power of choice settle for less than they can be. But I would ask you to walk the high road. Earn as much money as you can, share as much as you can, create all you can, read as many books as you can, see as many places as you can, become as skillful as you can. It's your birthright. Now, part of the learning to live on 70% falls under another fundamental, which we will cover in another session in this cassette program, that talks about lifestyle, how to get joy from your 70%. And that's what life is all about, doing the things that bring us satisfaction and joy. But before we move on to this subject, let me add a few closing notes on the subject of a good financial plan. I've come up with the major role of grandparents in this country. Here it is. The major role of grandparents in this country should be to teach their grandchildren how to be wealthy, cultured, and happy, just like me. Grandparents should not have to say, I've worked all my life, now I need help. They should be able to say, I've worked all my life, now I can help. If you are not financially independent by age 40 to 50, it doesn't mean you live in the wrong country. It doesn't mean you live in the wrong community. It doesn't mean you live at a wrong time. It doesn't mean you are a wrong person. It doesn't mean you have the wrong chance. It simply means you have the wrong plan. I discovered you can be a nice person with the wrong plan. You can be a sincere person with a poor plan. And remember, it's not uncommon. Everything by longevity tends to get off course. When they make a moonshot, it isn't the first set of the guidance systems that serves for the whole trip. They have what is known as mid-course corrections, those fine-tuned changes that set you on a more certain course. And on the way to the destination called the moon, they are so important. Hey, if there's one objective you don't want to miss, it's the moon. Now, if you will make wealth and financial freedom that important a necessity, you will have the highest chance to arrive. Next, if you have not done so in a while, or if you have never done so, put together a financial statement. When I first met Mr. Shoaff and we talked about financial independence, he asked me if I had a current financial statement. I said, "What is a financial statement?" So I got my primary education in taking a picture of where I was financially. Mr. Shoaff explained that it is very important to know exactly where you are without kidding yourself, so that you can then come up with a good plan for going from where you are to where you want to be. It turned out to be fairly easy to put one together. You merely list the value of your assets on one side of a piece of paper and the total of what you owe, called your liabilities, on the other side of the paper. Then by subtracting one from the other, you come up with what we call your current net worth. Now, it doesn't tell you what you are worth as a person, but rather what you are worth in money. I said to Mr. Shoaff, my financial statement isn't going to look that good. He said, "It is not important how good it looks. What is important is that you do it." So I put that first financial statement together. I had plenty of liabilities, money I owed my parents, budget finance, my car, and all kinds of other debts. Now on the asset side, I really had to scrape the bottom of the barrel. I even put my shoes on the asset side. They were worth something. Wow, how embarrassing after 6 years of working. But it must be done. You don't have to put the results on a public bulletin board, because it's not important that the community knows how you are doing. It's not important that I know how you're doing, but it's desperately important that you know how you're doing. Here are some other points. First, keep excellent books, not only for tax purposes, but for yourself, your financial future, and for your own sense of self-worth. Have you ever heard the expression, "I don't know where it all goes"? Well, from now on, make a new commitment to financial independence and to the value and the feeling that comes from knowing where it all goes and where it all comes from. It is just one of those important disciplines that cause you to prove to yourself that you are on a new road, walking in a new direction, becoming a new person, and arriving at a new destination. Without that effort, you will keep falling back. Hey, I found out you can make $5,000 a month and still go broke. You say, how could you go broke making $5,000 a month? It's easy. Spend $6,000. And when you make $5,000, spending $6,000 is not that difficult. Someone once said, if your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall. So, be the master over whatever you have and whatever you are. That's where the seeds of greatness are sown. Great wealth, great health, great results, great influence, and great lifestyle. Take interest and even delight in doing all the small things well. It makes you a sophisticated person who knows where the beginnings of wealth and happiness are. There's a Bible phrase that we could quote here that would be appropriate. It says, If you will be faithful over a few things, the small things, you will someday be ruler over many things, and major things. That's it. That's the philosophy that counts. Surely life is reluctant to hand a fortune to someone who constantly messes up his paycheck. It's not the amount that counts. It's the plan and the faithful discipline of that plan that counts. The disciplines are those ingenious keys that unlock the door to the kind of person we really want to become. And becoming attracts all those treasures and values that most anyone would call the good life. Life in abundance, life in productivity, life in enterprise, life in influence, life in style. Now, to wind up this rather lengthy subject, let me close with this. Mr. Schultz's best instructions to me in those early years were to develop a new attitude about myself, and a new attitude about all the principles that it takes to make life unique. Develop a new attitude about taxes, about paying your bills, about the marketplace, opportunity, your chances, wealth, activity, prosperity, service, productivity. Let me give you a good example of my old attitude. I used to say, I hate to pay my taxes. Schultz said, well, you can live that way if you want to. That's one attitude. I was a bit perplexed. I thought it was the only attitude. How strange. I used to say, I hate to pay my bills. And he said, well, you can live that way if you want to. I thought it was the only way. I used to say, I hate to part with my money. He said, that's one choice for lifestyle and attitude. I thought, could it be that there is another way to feel about it? He said, what if you said, I love to pay my taxes, knowing it's the care and feeding of the goose that lays the golden eggs? What if you said, I love to pay my bills, reduce my liabilities, and increase my assets? What if you said, I love to part with my money, put it into circulation, help build this dynamic society? Wouldn't that be a better way to live if you loved to instead of hated to? What an incredible way to look at it. I bought the idea and started the practice. I will admit that it took me a while to actually say truthfully, I love to. But when I did, I found a completely unique new way to live. To love to instead of hate to. Schof even taught me to pay my bills with enthusiasm. He said the next time you pay $100 on an account, put a note inside with your check that says, with great excitement I send you this $100. He said you won't believe what happens on the other end. They don't get many notes like that. But best of all, you won't believe what happens on your end. The new feeling of being in control and having a philosophy of life that brings joy instead of frustration. This whole new attitude will create for you a whole new world. Remember, it's something anyone can do. Mr. Schof got me to open my first savings account. He said, do you have a savings account? I said, I don't have enough money. And he reminded me, it's not the amount that counts, it's the plan. The important thing is to begin. Wealth is a plan, not an amount. He asked me if I had $10. I said, well, yes. He said, then open up your savings account and do it with your new attitude and enthusiasm. Well, that took some doing. I went to the bank in the town where I lived and walked in to open my account. I went to the window and told the lady I wanted to open up a savings account. She said, great. What is your name? I said, Mr. Rohn. She said, fine, Mr. Rohn, just fill out these papers. I filled them out, handed them back to her, and she said, that's all in order. Now, how are we going to get this account started? I said, put 10 in. She said, 10 what? I said, $10. Now, can you imagine the scene? I'm a grown man, 25 years old. I have a family, I'm working, and opening up my first savings account with $10. I said, hey, this may not seem like much, but I have a great plan. In fact, before long, I'll probably have the largest savings account in this bank. She said, well, if you say so. It was a bit embarrassing, I must admit, but Schoaf said, get excited about where you're going, and excited about the fact that you are one of the few who have a wealth plan in place and working. To make a long story short, guess what? Within less than 3 years, I did have the largest savings account in that bank. Now, it was just a small country bank, but I did reach my goal. What magic! And how quickly it works once you develop a new plan and a new attitude and commit to the discipline to do it. Wealth plans, anyone can have them. Wealth goals, anyone can design them. Wealth habits and disciplines, anyone can develop them. Why not start today? This can be a new day that opens up a new future and creates a new excitement about life and its possibilities for you. The management of time. Wouldn't you agree this has to be one of the master keys to wealth and happiness? I was in South Africa for a lecture tour some years ago, and I picked up this short article by Arnold Bennett on the subject of time. I thought it was excellent, and I'd like to share it with you now. Time, he wrote, is the inexplicable raw material of everything. With it, all is possible. Without it, nothing. The supply of time is truly a daily miracle, an affair genuinely astonishing when one examines it. You wake up in the morning and lo, your purse is magically filled with 24 hours of the unmanufactured tissue of the universe of your life. It is yours. It is the most precious of possessions. No one can take it from you. It is unstealable. And no one receives either more or less than you receive. In the realm of time, there is no aristocracy of wealth and no aristocracy of intellect. Genius is never rewarded by even an extra hour a day. And there is no punishment. Waste your infinitely precious commodity as much as you will, and the supply will never be withheld from you. Moreover, you cannot draw on the future. Impossible to get into debt. You can only waste the passing moment. You cannot waste tomorrow. It is kept for you. You cannot waste the next hour. It is kept for you. I have said the affair is a miracle, is it not? You have this 24 hours of daily time to live. Out of it, you want to spend health, pleasure, money, content, respect, and the evolution of your immortal soul. Its right use, its most effective use, is a matter of the highest urgency and of the most thrilling actuality. All depends on that. Your happiness, the elusive prize that you are all clutching for, my friend, depends on that. Mr. Bennett continues, if one cannot arrange that an income of 24 hours shall exactly cover all proper items of expenditure, one does muddle one's whole life indefinitely. We shall never have any more time. We have, and we have always had, all the time there is. Isn't that well said? Let's consider some approaches to managing our time most effectively. The first approach is to ignore the subject altogether. The man says, I've been late all my life. I can't ever seem to get a handle on my time. Heck with it. I'll just struggle along the best I can. That's okay. It's your life, right? You can do with it as you please. But consider what this attitude might be costing you. Here's the second approach. Step down to something easier. Again, that's okay too. A man works for a company, then decides he wants to own one. When he gets that responsibility, comes to work before everyone else, leaves after everyone else, he now says, I would rather work for someone else's company. Hey, again, it's your life. Success is not a stereotype. There isn't just one model. Know clearly what success means to you and be comfortable with the price you pay for it. You might have heard the story of the little girl who complained to her mother that her daddy never had time to play with her. She said, why doesn't my daddy play with me? He comes home from work, goes to the study and works, comes out for dinner, goes back to work again. I want to play with my daddy. So her mother explained to her, your daddy is very busy. He loves you very much, and that is why he works so hard. At his office, he has so much work to do that he has to bring the rest of it home. and finish it here. That is why he can't play with you." The little girl thought for a moment, trying to solve this problem, and came up with the answer. She said, "Well, why don't they just put him in a slower group?" Hey, not a bad idea. Don't throw away other important values in your life just going for one. I went for some things in my life and found out later I had paid too much. If I had known how much they were going to cost, I never would have paid. So that is a consideration. The next approach to time management is to work longer and harder. And we all know the dangers there, right? Unless you aren't working at all, then you probably need to work longer and harder. But for some people, if 10 hours won't do it in a day, they work 12. And if 12 won't do, they move it up to 14. Some people even take on 2 jobs. And there are some very real dangers here, not least of which is health problems that result from not being able to handle the stress. So you've got to be careful with this approach. The last approach, I think, is the best, and that is to get more out of you. In the time you have assigned to labor, make the hours more valuable. The key is not to work harder, but to work smarter. If you're putting in about 8 or 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, that's about it. You can't work much harder. But remember, it's not the hours you put in that counts. It's what you put in the hours. Get more from you to make the investment of time more valuable. And no telling how valuable you can become. We don't lack the capacity. We only lack the ideas and the will and the discipline to carry them out. In considering the subject of time management, remember that a big part of the key for changing is to take it in small steps. Most of us don't make revolutionary changes. We change a few degrees at a time. When you get some life momentum rolling, it's not that easy to make all the changes all at once. Hey, you can't whip a U-turn with the Queen Elizabeth II. When that big ship gets moving, they say it takes 7 miles just to get it stopped. So when it's really moving, you just have to nudge it a little, and finally you get it turned. That's a lot like our lives. A few nudges at a time. But if you're consistent, you can't believe the progress you can make in a fairly short period of time. Here is my first key point on the management of time. Either you run the day, or it runs you. That's fairly simply put, but it is so true. Everything in life is a lot like that. Emotions are a good example. Either you master them, or they will master you. Something is always going to master, and something is always going to serve. Whether it's your emotions, your enterprise, or your project. Difficulty will serve or master. Fear, anxiety, inclinations. They all serve or master. We must learn to send our inclinations to school, to teach them how to behave, how best to serve, and to learn their true value. So that is key 1. Get in charge. You be the master. It pays to take a look often and examine all the parts of your life and all the things that you are involved in and all the things that are affecting you so that you can get an intelligent answer to the question, who's in charge here? It's so easy when you get something started to unwittingly relinquish the reins of authority so that it begins to subtly but surely take over. Soon you become the servant. It dictates, it demands, and you respond. So let's turn this whole challenge around. You take over the reins of authority. You subtly but surely take charge. You dictate, you demand, and you will be delighted to see early signs of positive response from your enterprise, your business, and your life. The next time management essential is to learn to say no. I had some difficulty here. It is so easy to say yes to everything, trying to be a nice person, and then have to spend all that time trying to come up with excuses to get out of the obligation. It's one of the great time wasters. How much better to say, no, I don't think I can, but if that changes, I'll give you a call. And isn't it a better feeling to call someone with the good news, I can come, than with the bad news, Guess what? I can't come. When in doubt, learn to say no. A friend of mine, Ron Reynolds, has a good saying, "Don't let your mouth overload your back." That's a great thought to keep in mind when scheduling your time. Here's the next tip. When you work, work, and when you play, play. For time efficiency and for that good feeling that comes from doing something without any guilt feeling, don't mix the two. Many years ago, I used to say, I've got to get my family to the beach. I've been promising to take them to the beach. What are they going to think if I don't take them? Now guess where I am while I'm thinking about the beach. Right, at the office. Now I finally get my family to the beach, but at the beach I'm saying, I should be at the office. I have so much to do. Now I've messed up my beach time with the family by thinking about the office. So I learned this lesson. Make a play day and a work day a work day. Don't mix the two. Sure enough, if you say I'm going to take off at 3 o'clock and go play, guess what you are thinking about all morning? Taking off to go play. So don't play at work and don't work at play. It's a great rule to follow to ensure that your time is used more effectively. Now, I know all of this has to be modified to fit your particular situation. No one rule will apply to all, but keep the main thought in mind. Separate work and play. When I take a lecture tour to Spain or Africa or Australia, I make it a work trip. Every day is filled with lectures, speeches, and business conferences. Then I arrange a play trip, because when I play, I really want to play. A builder friend of mine now has the luxury of working a week and taking off a week. That's what he calls it, work a week, play a week. However, with weekends on either side of his play week, it's really 9 days. So he works 5 and takes off 9. That is luxury, right? However, the 5 days he works, he really works. Secretaries, accountants, architects, superintendents, long days, around the clock, into the night. 5 heavy, full days. Then he's off to play. So when he works, he really works so that he can save all the playtime for a longer stretch. Now, perhaps we can't all do that, but we can learn to practice the skill of separating work and play. The next time management essential is to analyze how you are. Then if the challenge calls for it, you must either change how you are or change your procedure. That is productivity waiting to make time pay. Self-analyzing. The first thing to analyze is your periods of greatest productivity throughout the day. If you are a morning person who wakes up early, ready to start the day, that is the best time to do your creative work. You can get more done when you're at your best. Some people are night people, fuzzy in the morning, late to get started, but alert and awake long into the evening. If that's the way you are, then this is the best time to pack in the activity and creativity. The key is to find your best time and use it to its fullest. Next, analyze your habits. If, for example, you're not good at keeping records, get someone to do it for you. If you have promised yourself that you're going to keep your records or balance your checkbook, and this has been going on for a few years, it looks like you aren't that kind of person. Nor are you likely to become that kind of person. You may say, no, I'm really going to do it this time. Hey, I would suggest that a few years is long enough. Don't promise yourself anymore. Just say, maybe the smart thing to do is to get someone to do this and make me look good. You would be surprised at how often you can remain a lot like you are in many areas if you will just make the arrangements to have it covered. Some years ago, my office came to the conclusion that I was a poor courier. Someone would ask me to take a check to San Francisco, since I was going there anyway. I would say, sure, no problem. Put the check in my pocket and fly off to San Francisco. Guess when I would next hear about that check? From my dry cleaners. Next time someone says, this document has to go to New York, will you be sure to give it to them this time? I'd say, of course, you can count on me this time. I'm not flaky. So I put the document in my briefcase and head off for New York. Guess what? Right, it would still be in my briefcase when I got back to the office the following week. So there is a saying now in my office: don't give the chairman anything. He's good at some things, but he's a poor courier. Make other arrangements. And that is my point. There is nothing wrong with admitting that you just aren't going to do certain things, as long as you are clever enough to make arrangements to have them done. It's much better than continually promising that you will when the chances are good that you won't. Next time management essential, the telephone. What an incredible instrument for business, social, and emergency situations. The job it can do for you is unbelievable. However, there are some tips for using the telephone so that it won't use you. Here's the first one. Before you make a call, make an agenda. An agenda is simply a list of the items you want to talk about, especially if it's a business call. It is one of the better habits to develop. Did you ever make a call and toward the end of the conversation say, "Let's see, there was something else I was going to talk to you about. I just can't think of it right now, but if I think of it later, I'll call you back." A great time waster, and for a business call, not very sophisticated on your part. Making an agenda before you make a call serves to keep your conversation on course, so that you cover the essentials without missing any of them. Also, it helps to keep the conversation on track and control the tendency to wander into non-essential chit-chat. It is also a money saver. The extra minutes saved by keeping to an agenda and a few pleasantries is major. I know. My business telephone bill just in California got up to $13,000 a month. And this was one of the problems. Doing business internationally, we have learned the incredible savings of both time and money by taking the time to write down an agenda before we begin to dial. And here's another benefit. If you have made an agenda, when it comes time to recall that conversation you had, you've now got the details in writing. When you say, "John, how are you doing on those 4 things we talked about the other day?" And John says, "What 4 things? We didn't talk about that." You now have a written record to show that you did. Remember, people can talk you out of what's in your head, but it's hard to talk you out of what's in your book. Next, if you can afford the luxury, have your calls screened. Then when you pick up the messages, you can decide who to call and when to call, and have the time to formulate the important information before you make the call. Now, this is a luxury, I will admit. It may be that you just have to answer the phone when the call comes in, but at least file this idea away for the future, when you might be able to use it. And one more, the telephone at home. Here you have to exercise great care to not let the telephone intrude. During social time with family or friends, my suggestion is that you shut the phone off. They have all those neat devices now, so you can. Put on the recorder to take messages or just pull the plug. Family is a high priority. Take care that valuable family time is not subject to frequent intrusions. If you set up this rule, you will not only have uninterrupted time with your family and friends, but also they will give you high marks for caring about them enough to make them a priority. Every situation calls for an evaluation of values. You've just got to weigh everything and make the necessary adjustments if you want to get full time and full value out of your life. The next time management tip I have is to listen to the cassette programs and read the books on the subject. You can't possibly get all the ideas you'll need from any one cassette program or person. Remember, you have to go in search of the ideas. They don't just come by. Make a thorough investigation of the subject on your own. Sort out the ideas. Choose those that you think are most valid and put them to work in your life. Next point, be more alert and analyze all your procedures and tools. Old filing methods, old bookkeeping methods. Some things we do can become quickly outdated, especially these days. Check for all the new tools that can help you to use your time more efficiently. Dictating machines, tape recorders, answering devices, computers, calculators. There is just about every tool imaginable in today's marketplace. I now have a fabulous computer in my office that can do the most amazing things and save a great deal of time. I also have a portable computer typewriter that I can take on an airplane or in my motorhome. Then I merely transfer what I have typed onto special cassettes or send the information via telephone back to the main terminal. When I get home, all of my letters and scripts are typed and waiting for my signature or my attention. So take a look, do some research, do some shopping, find out. No telling how much you can improve your efficiency or multiply your skills by eliminating the barriers and the hindrances so that you are now free to do all the creative things that make for fortune and lifestyle. Now here's an important time saver. Learn to ask questions. This habit will serve in so many ways. Have you ever talked to someone for an hour and then asked some questions and found out that you just wasted the last hour? Make a note. Almost everything is symptomatic of what's really wrong. Surface details don't usually give us enough information to effectively communicate. So, ask questions before. If John isn't making sales, we say, okay, let's get on him about making sales. But perhaps we should ask, why isn't he making sales? Someone says, he isn't making enough calls. We say, okay, let's get on him about making calls. Well, maybe we should ask another question first. Why isn't he making calls? Well, it's because he isn't getting up early and getting out into the marketplace. We say, okay, let's get on him about getting up early and getting out into the marketplace. Well, perhaps we should ask just one more question. Why isn't he getting up early and getting out into the marketplace? Now we have probably gotten to the heart of the problem. Perhaps it's something personal, problems at home, not his sales skills. The real problems are usually about 3 or 4 questions deep. So if you get good at asking questions, you can save yourself a lot of time by getting right at the heart of the matter when dealing with other people. Otherwise, you tend to waste valuable time just finding out what the problem really is. Now here's the last part of time management. Learn to think on paper. From all of my experience working on many projects and in many countries, one of the major time savers is thinking on paper. It is so important to take things out of your head and put them on paper, then work from the paper. Building your business is a lot like building a house. You take the ideas out of your head, put them on paper, and then build from the plan. We have a saying on this idea: operate from document, not from thought. It's just about over when a person wakes up in the morning and says, let's see, what shall I do today? Too late, right? The best thing you can do now is to take today off and at least plan tomorrow. Let me give you 4 major ways to think on paper. The first is a journal. I spend a lot of time talking about journals in my lectures and programs, primarily because it is such an invaluable tool for the serious student of the better life. A journal is merely a gathering place for all the good information that comes your way, from sermons, from books, from lectures, from business conferences, magazines, thinking time, research, any source of information that you feel is worth keeping. Don't let the good ideas of life escape you. Remember, most good ideas usually only come by once. Get into the habit of capturing them with pen and paper by making daily use of your journal. Now maybe you won't write in it every day, but at least make sure it's with you every day. Here's the second way to think on paper: a projects book. This is simply a ring binder with tabs in it to help you keep track of all the current people and projects you are involved with and need to work on to make all the parts of your life work to the maximum. If you are working with people, give them each a tab in your projects book. Then under this tab, you keep a running account of all the current information you need to know about that person: performance, family, goals, strengths, needs, perhaps even some graphs showing recent progress or comparisons to past performance. Essentially, you make a note of all the information you need to know so that when you sit down to have a meeting with this person, you have all the pertinent facts there before you in order to have a meaningful and productive conversation. Without this habit, it's so easy to take up time talking with someone and get so very little accomplished because most of the meeting ends up by being devoted to bringing you up to date on the facts you could have already had in your projects book. Now, depending on your particular business or enterprise, you might want to have a tab for each office or each department or each ongoing project. On a more personal level, you might want to have a tab for each family member or for your personal projects, investments, finances, game plans, and so forth. It's just an effective way to keep all the key pieces of information readily available so you won't have to be continuously hunting through files and drawers for the data. It is the best way I know of to study your business and life projects. A projects book is a guideline for this study. We simply don't study files. They are for storing information. The projects book is for the daily or weekly summary accounting of all the pieces, like a financial statement of your business at the end of the month. In fact, that is one of the sections in your projects book. And another secret. With a guideline to study, it keeps you on good mental track. If you try to study your business and your life in your head, you will for sure miss something, miscalculate, or let your mind go undisciplined in those high thought areas where the ideas and plans and inspiration for fortune lie. It's the organized, better disciplined thought that produces abundance. Everyone is thinking, but mostly about how to get by. I'm asking you to develop these tools and disciplines to think about how to become wealthy and happy, powerful and influential, sophisticated and unique. The next way to think on paper is to keep a day timer, a daily log of your list of things to do and your appointments and schedules. This is where I also keep the agenda for my telephone calls. It becomes a clear and useful record. If you have a business and need to keep track of expenses for income tax purposes, your day timer should also accommodate this need. A day timer is also a good place to record telephone numbers and other key information that you need on a daily basis. Basically, it's a way of keeping a record of your daily activities. Your day timer can also be used as a gathering place for all the details or highlights from your day which need to be logged into your journal or projects book at a later time. It's just an efficient means of keeping track of your days and scheduling your projects and appointments. I strongly recommend that you develop the day timer habit. It only takes a few minutes a day to keep your records up to date, and the time and information you save by using one is massive. Now here's the fourth way to think on paper: the all-important game plan. A game plan can make all the difference in the world in how your months and years work out for you in terms of both accomplishment and satisfaction. Whether you do business at home, down the street, within the community, or around the world, game plans are essential for maximizing productivity. Here's a phrase worth remembering, and that is, don't start the day until you have it finished. That idea is worth the money. A plan before you start. A day is a major piece of the whole strategy of your wealth plan, your success plan. I know it is laborious, but it's labor and effort that pays in cash and accomplishment. And remember, value is on the other side of effort, not hope. Now, if you want to make a lot more progress and income, here's the key. Don't start the week until you have it finished. Of course, it is more challenging to finish a week than to finish a day, but the pay and the results are so exciting, you won't mind the challenge. And if you want to make a lot of money and big success, don't start the month until you have it finished. That one is a stretch, but high in reward. Now, if you want to start walking among the heavyweights, here's the key. Don't start the year until you have it finished. I don't want to kid you. This one is difficult. It's reserved for those few who do and become the superstars in accomplishment, enterprise, wealth, influence, and lifestyle. It's a high road of sophisticated disciplines, but I'm positive you will like the view and the taste and the company. A game plan is merely a spreadsheet for your activities. It can be a game plan for a day, a week, a month, a year, several months, or several years. And a game plan can be for a single project or for a variety of concurrent projects. Here's how it works. On a sheet of graph paper, you make vertical columns for the weeks or months that this plan is to cover. Then, on the left side of the paper, you make a heading called Activities. Under this heading, you list all of the activities to be performed within that time frame. Let's say that part of your business requires providing ongoing training programs for your employees. Under the column marked Activities, you merely list the various training programs you wish to conduct for the next 12 months. Then under the vertical columns for each month, you block off particular periods of time for these training classes. Game plans can be used to help you plan almost any aspect of your business or enterprise. They can also be used to help you organize all areas of your life, from investment plans to reading plans. Game plans are particularly useful when it comes to scheduling family time, vacations, special weekends and trips, and so forth. Everyone who is important to you wants to see where he or she is on your game plan, especially if your business often requires you to spend a lot of time away from home. And remember, there's nothing like a visual plan. It's so much more effective to be able to show members of your family where they are on your game plan, as opposed to merely telling them in conversation. Now, a game plan can be as detailed as you wish, and please be forewarned now that you are probably going to tear up several before you get what you want. This is something you have to work with. Every game plan must be tailored to fit a particular need. The chart you use for your personal plans may not necessarily be suitable as a chart for your business plans. Here is another key benefit of using game plans. If you have your plan in your projects book or up on a wall somewhere, it serves as a constant reminder to get busy on all the activities you have scheduled. Or, if there are a lot of blank holes beside the activities you have listed, your plan reminds you to get busy scheduling them. Now you might well ask, doesn't a calendar do the same thing? Not really. Many of the events on your game plan will be on your calendar, but here are the major differences. First, the visual reminder of the spreadsheet and the list of activities on the left that have no corresponding time assigned to them on the right serve to remind you of what is not yet done. A calendar just won't give you that kind of information. And second, it is so important to take a look at 3 months, 6 months, 1 year at a time for highly effective planning. With a game plan, you can get a sense of the whole picture of the time frame and all of the important activities at one look. To effectively design something, you just have to have a picture of the whole finished project, complete, or as complete as possible. Game plans are both exciting and painful. Painful because of all the things you must get on with and plan, make up your mind about, or give serious thought to. And painful because they illustrate how far behind you are sometimes. But they are also very exciting, both because they help you to foresee how your life, your business, and your family are going to unfold over the coming months, and because they can help you get the job done. It's like looking at the artist's rendering of the finished project. It brings all kinds of feelings to the surface as we see it all take shape and unfold. And it also gives you that incredible feeling of being in charge. You have your life in hand and in order and well designed. Remember how valuable a day is. It is part of your whole life enterprise. A day is like a piece of the mosaic of your life. Fashion it wisely to the best of your genius. For as someone once said, at midnight, the winged messengers come and gather up all these pieces and take them off to wherever the mosaic is kept. And surely on occasion one messenger says to another, wait till you see this one. A well-fashioned day with a beginning and an end, a purpose and a content, a color and a character, a feel and a texture. This well-fashioned day takes its place among the many and becomes a valuable memory and treasure. An equity of experience and spirit and life. And remember, the genius to do all this lies within you. Never forget that. Some people say, if I was as smart as you are, make sure you make the correction in thinking to say, if I had developed as much of my smart as you have. That's it. We're all smart enough. We just have to develop that smart into a plan. Hopefully this program will help. There it is, How to Think on Paper.